Every single time you make a phone call, you're kicking off this little miracle of engineering. Your voice is about to go on an absolutely incredible journey, and we're going to follow it every single step of the way.
I mean, have you ever really, truly stopped to think about it? How does just speaking into this little device let someone on the complete other side of the planet hear you, like, instantly? It feels like it should be magic, but it's actually just a brilliant, high-speed process.
See, here's the secret. Your voice doesn't actually travel. It gets completely transformed. It becomes something else, this sort of phantom signal that races through a global network at pretty much the speed of light before it gets reborn. And that journey? It starts with the very first sound you make.
So where does this whole journey begin? Well, the very first and maybe most important step is turning your voice, which really is just vibrations in the air, into something that can actually travel these huge distances. It needs to become an electrical signal. Okay, so inside that tiny microphone on your phone, there's this super thin membrane. It's called a diaphragm. When the sound waves from your voice hit it, it starts vibrating. And this is where the magic happens. The microphone turns those exact vibrations into a tiny electrical current that's a perfect copy, a perfect mimic of the pattern and tone of your voice. And just like that, sound is now electricity.
Way back in the day, old-school telephones used these things called carbon microphones. They had these little carbon granules that would change their electrical resistance when the diaphragm vibrated. Now, the smartphone in your pocket, it uses incredibly sophisticated microphones that are way, way more sensitive. But here's the crazy part. Despite that huge technological leap, the fundamental idea is exactly the same. Your voice is now a flowing electrical signal ready to travel.
Okay, so we've done it. Our voice is now an electrical signal. But how in the world does it get from your phone in, let's say, New York, all the way over to a phone in Tokyo? Well, now it's time for the great journey across the global network.
So the signal basically has two main highways it can take. For an old-school landline, it's going to travel through a physical copper wire. For your cell phone, your voice gets digitized and then blasted out as a radio wave to the nearest cell tower. But here's the thing you got to remember. From that point on, both of them, the landline and the mobile signal, they merge onto the same massive, interconnected global network.
Let's just follow that landline path for a second. The electrical signal leaves your phone, travels down copper wires to a local telephone exchange. You can picture it like this giant, super smart switchboard. It instantly figures out the best route for your call and sends it on its way. And for long distances, your electrical signal often gets converted again, this time into pulses of light, literally blasting through these super thin fiber optic cables that run under our streets and even under the oceans.
So our little signal has just zipped across thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. It's arrived. But now comes the grand finale. It has to turn back into a voice. It has to complete its final transformation.
And this is just the beautiful symmetry of how a telephone works. The whole thing just happens in reverse, like a movie playing backward. The electrical signal that just arrived flows into the speaker on the other person's phone. This makes another diaphragm vibrate in the exact same pattern as the original. And those vibrations? They push the air, perfectly recreating the original sound waves. Your voice is reborn.
So you might be wondering, hey, why don't I hear my own voice echoing back? Or how come I can interrupt somebody? Well, that's thanks to something called full duplex communication. Basically, the phone's brain is smart enough to handle two separate signals, one coming in and one going out, at the exact same time, without them getting all jumbled up. This is what makes a phone call feel like a real conversation, not like using a walkie-talkie where you have to say over.
So that's the classic playbook, the fundamental journey from sound to electricity and back again. But of course, the phone in your pocket today, it's got a whole extra layer of digital smarts piled on top.
Today's phones are just packed with smart tech. You've got stuff like digital compression, which basically squishes the voice data down to make it travel way more efficiently. Then there's active noise cancellation, which is amazing. It literally listens for background noise, like traffic or a fan, and just erases it from the call, so your voice is crystal clear. And of course, with VoIP, apps like WhatsApp or Skype can just skip the traditional phone network altogether and send your voice as data packets right over the internet.
But, and this is the really cool part, after all of that fancy digital stuff, all the compression and noise canceling, the core principle, that original idea from Alexander Graham Bell, it hasn't changed one bit. It's still at the heart of every single call.
So, at the end of the day, it's all about this four-step dance.
Sound becomes electricity. That electricity zips across a global network. And at the very end, that electricity becomes sound again. It's a simple, it's an elegant, and it's a world-changing chain of events.
I mean, just take a second to think about that. We went from a single copper wire connecting two rooms to this invisible global web that connects billions of us. It's just staggering. This single invention completely rewired our entire society and made the world feel so much smaller.
And it's wild to think that this whole gigantic system, all of it, it all boils down to converting one simple vibration into another. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's next? What will be the next great leap that changes how we all connect?